In the 60s, America experienced a revolution. No, not from this country, but from England. And part of the revolution was musical, and part of it was fashion. When you go back and you look at the history of that, I'm sitting next to a lady who was presented with the Order of the British Empire for what she contributed to fashion and the community. This is Barbara Hulanicki, who is really the godmother of fashion of the 60s. Welcome to the show.
Hello, nice to be asked to be on it.
Let me ask you a question. When you were walking towards the Queen, and you were being presented to her, and then you do the curtsy or whatever the protocol is, what was going through your mind at that moment?
I was very nervous, but they're hilarious. They're all laughing, all the Aquarius, and they show you what you're supposed to do. And when you're bowing and when you're, when you go forward and you go back, and I got it all wrong, of course. I was so nervous. And Prince Charles said to me, "Come on, get on with it. Come on." They were so funny. Following that, the Royal Academy had a thing for a lot of show people, artists and so on, and I was one of the invited, and I was with Manolo Blahnik, and we were at one end, and Her Majesty came around, and we did our bow, and she asked us a few questions, and then Manolo said, "Come on, let's get out of here, let's go for dinner," and we walked around the circle, about to leave, and we got talking to Sarah Burton from Alexander McQueen, and suddenly the Queen came around again, and we had to go through all that, and she didn't even realize we'd already done all the waving and the bows and the scrapes.
So did this become important to you, or did you take it in stride with the royals?
I was shocked. I said, "Are you sure?" Because BIBA was always a sort of rebel, and it wasn't sort of looked down. It was looked down by the establishment, and to be given an OBE, I thought, wow, things have changed.
Anyway, before we talk about BIBA, you were originally born in Poland, and you grew up in Israel.
No, it was Palestine.
Then it was Palestine, and it was right around the time when Israel was getting its independence, and Palestine was supposed to have its independence.
Yes, right.
What was it like as a little kid? What were the streets like? What were the people like?
It was absolute magic, because we lived in Jerusalem, the old city, and I spent all my time in churches, which was Byzantine, very dim lights, very dramatic, very BIBA actually, and great influence.
Unfortunately, due to a tragedy, your father was assassinated by Israeli terrorists, and you left the country and to live with your Aunt Sophie.
Yes.
Now let's fast forward to the 60s. Give us a vision of what the London nightlife, fashion, celebrity connection was like at that time.
Well, funnily enough, what happened in England at that time is that there was sort of like two generations, like now, but much stronger, that the older generation was so Victorian and so stuffy that it just didn't work with the young people who just had to break out from this thing. There were so many rules that you had to follow, and there was just an explosion. After art school, I went to art school. I wanted to do fashion, it was a art school, very sort of art-orientated painting, and they used to call me, oh, you're one of those, go over there, So you were always one of those when you were doing fashion, because fashion was just not fashionable, I tell you. So I just write to this illustration studio in London, in Covent Garden, and I got a job. I went up and I got interviewed, and I got a job making tea. But I graduated, and then I started working for a lot of newspapers who used to send you to Paris. So I was going to all the shows, you see. I was so lucky to see all the fashion shows like Dior, Balenciaga, Givenchy, and all those. And I said, I think this is so boring. I can't stand it. I can't look at 150 black dresses at Dior, the same dress coming by, So you went like, and I had nothing to wear. I'm earning money, and there's nowhere to shop, unless you're going to look like Auntie. And so this was this desire to do something.
Well, then under the category of life happens the way it's supposed to, you met Stephen Fitzsimmons. And how did he change your life?
Oh, yes. I mean, I heard about him for a long time because it was a girl that was sitting, another fashion artist at the other side of the room, and she used to tell me about Fitz. So when I met her, I thought, right, you're the one. And he was in advertising and very cute, very experienced, because we were quite old. We were 24 years old, and everybody was 15 and 16. And they considered 28 was really over the hill. So he immediately said, you've got to do mail order, which is like online now, and because that's the future. So we started with mail order, and we sort of were, because I knew all these journalists, fashion journalists, they used to give me a space and I'd do my drawing, and we would manufacture the little dress, and then we were selling like sort of 100 of each, and it was really, we had to pack the stuff ourselves at night because we still had our jobs, and it was really, we were just going to give up, except a friend of mine who I was working for on the Mirror, Felicity Green, she ringed me up. The editorial comes out, which was like a whole half page in the Mirror, and she says, Felicity rang me, she said, have you seen it? I said, yes. In any case, Fitz goes to collect the mail. He comes around the corner and he's dragging a sack, a big grin on his face, and he said, 2 more sacks coming. Every single day, we had sacks and sacks and sacks of mail.
Yeah. How did you go from being a mail order? What was the next step in building your business?
We keep passing this wonderful little shop, a beautiful Victorian shop, which was a old chemist, black and gold, and sort of all the bottles are there. And I said, "God, come on, Fitz, let's open a shop." No. But we took that premises as a warehouse, to hang the stuff that was going to be sent. And one day I just had the door open to the outside, and suddenly this room was filled with people trying on clothes, one dress and one size. So I ring up Fitz to the factory, go and get some more dresses quickly. So that's how we started.
I would imagine it didn't hurt that your husband had a background in marketing and said, we've got a brand here if we market this right.
First of all, Fitz said, you've got to find a name. By tomorrow you've got to get a name. I said, so in any case, that kind of happened. It's feminine, and so it became BIBA. BIBA Postal Boutique. A little bit later on, we did a catalogue with the perfect girl that I imagined was the BIBA girl.
Well, you called her the BIBA Dolly.
Yes, BIBA Dolly.
In my research, I discovered that the miniskirt, feather boa, and the maxi coat are all synonymous with BIBA, which means they're synonymous with you.
Yeah. When you've got a shop and a sort of sample room in the back, because we sampled everything, really to almost couture level, and there were manufacturers outside. You're very much into your public, what they want and what they want next, and what they don't know they want, which is very. And also we weren't producing that much of each style, so we had different styles all the time.
And how did you get all those celebrities to do drop-ins?
Because, say like in the first shop, all the Rolling Stones and the Beatles had girlfriends who were in the shop, brought the girls in the shop. you know, it was a very tight sort of little society, you know, and they weren't famous then.
Well, how do you think BIBA would fare today, being on South Beach? Would there be a lot of BIBA wearers in the crowd?
Oh, yes, my God, yeah.
Now, just to move on to another amazing subject, in addition to being a clothing designer, you design exteriors and interiors of hotels.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about how'd you get involved in that?
Well, BIBA was always very, very decorative in its style because I wanted it to look like a living room, somebody's living room. So it was a sort of natural. When Ronnie Wood rang me and he said, "I've just bought a building on Fifth Street. Come over for 6 months and design a club for me." So I said, "Okay, that sounds great." Can you imagine doing a derelict building in Miami in 6 months? It doesn't happen.
And how many years later was it finished?
About 2, 3, 4. And then we never left. Fitz was with me, and we just loved it here because it was the same kind of atmosphere as early London. You know, being down a sort of very, very beautiful architectural buildings, but very shabby and things that had seen better days. And the same thing was happening in Miami, but it was just kind of a little miniature. And it was just appealed to us tremendously. We loved it. Chris Blackwell came to Miami, and he already had the Marlin. When I was sort of finishing Woody's, he came over and he said, "Do you want to design a corridor?" And I said, "Corridor? Really?" So he gave me a corridor to do. And when I passed the sort of test of doing a corridor, he said, "Okay, you can do some more." So I started working for him full time, which was really interesting at the time because you couldn't go out and order furniture. You had to have it. You designed it and you had it made down in Hialeah, and it was a really fantastic project. And then, of course, he went and bought 10 other buildings, and you just kind of went on and on.
So your resume has as many items under building designs as you do under clothing.
Yeah. Because I tell you what, doing a building for me is like opening BIBA, but not having the horror of having the clothes there. So it's the whole, you know, it was exactly like that.
So have you reached the point where you're going to retire, or are you looking into the future, and what do you have up your sleeve?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I work in England quite a lot with projects, because nowadays, you know, with computers you can sit anywhere on an island or whatever. And I do shoes, I do pillows. I'm doing something fantastic soon.
When you do it, will you come back and tell us about it?
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah, it would be fantastic. Yeah.
So everybody, watch this lady. You know, a lot of people say, well, you reach a certain age and it's all over. This is just the beginning.
Yeah.
If you think she's done big things up to now, wait till you see what she does tomorrow.
Yeah. Oh God. I get bored. So it's got to be something more, you know.
I totally understand that. And I want to say thank you for stopping by. I really enjoyed talking with you.
Great fun. Thank you.